Okay, is there something in particular I should focus on, something important you're gonna say?
Gonna get you anything else?
How many times did I say? Oh, well, no, wait, for 4 years, so I can read that.
Intermittent attending.
Always want to attend, but it always seems to be something. No. Jump already.
That's true.
I'm over 95.
We actually have to start.
9,500.
Oh,
I worked 11 hours a day.
So I've done that. Now, when we came back,
Okay, I'll try to come up with. Wait, see what it's gonna be. That's
If I
gonna be.
get off my chair.
So what I'm saying is, if I don't speak up, it's not gonna be because I'm recording.
Okay. So, is there somebody gonna be sitting in this chair?
I have no idea.
If you would like to sit in this chair, you are more than
Well,
welcome.
it's only for when he flags me. I'm gonna do a couple little video snippets for social media.
All right. Actually,
Is this what?
yeah, I have no idea whose bag that is. Is that yours, Joey?
No.
Alright. I'll sit over here until Peter said he'd give me a signal.
All right.
They're recording the whole thing.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I know, but that's for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do it for social media purposes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we run over 600, I run over 650 events a year. I always speakers all the time, so I highlight speakers.
Yeah, you're things all the time.
Yeah, I'm out there. You're fine. Yeah, you can live there. Yeah. I'm drinking wine.
What do you think? You want to start?
I do. Let me get the verbiage. You know, all things come to the end. No. And then he goes for me, register.
Okay. So whenever you're ready.
I can handle that if, I mean, not.
You want to do it?
Yeah, I can do it. I can do it. If you want to do yours
So the
first.
deal
Right.
I have no idea whose flag
Okay.
Sometimes I get paid.
I was looking at it this week and
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
You all set? You all set? Want me to top that up? Want me to top that up for you? Want me to top it up for you?
Scientists generally have some ideas. It's like an arrowhead. Wide arrowhead. And you gotta narrow it down.
What's that?
Live. Live.
I worked with this one.
Should I tell you when we start? Okay. You haven't started yet.
You're live. You're live.
Oh, live now? Oh, wow.
You know,
We don't
we don't want. Our stuff's like
And we'll get started.
he's going and advertising.
Should I stand here? Is that okay? Go ahead.
What I do not do.
Joanne?
Anyone should have taken that?
Joanne? Should I stand about here?
Yeah, anywhere from there to way down.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So, thank you everybody for attending this joint meeting of the Chemical Consultants Network and Chem Pharma. We're two different organizations, but we're all very, very happy that you're here. I'm Keith Wang. I'm the chair of the Chemical Consultants Network. The Chemical Consultants Network is a topical group of the American Chemical Society Philadelphia section. We are here. Our mission is to help promote and launch the careers of prospective consultants in the chemical enterprise. So that can be people that are pure chemistry, in biotechnology, pharmaceutical sciences, in computational chemistry, anything related to chemical sciences. We are here to help you launch and promote your career in consulting. In addition, we have an informal mission to help people who've been displaced from a large chemical company employ. We do that on an informal basis pretty frequently, and we're more than happy to do it. Most of our meetings are in the Kenwood Club in Ballackinwood, but we have about a third of our meetings in off-site locations near where large chemical enterprises are located. And indeed, this is the case for here at Smokehouse Tavern in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Now, before I introduce the speaker, I'm going to introduce my colleague and co-member on the steering committee of the Chemical Consultants Network, Maureen Nunn, who is both a member of the Chemical Consultants Network as well as ChemPharma, and she has a few words to say. Maureen?
Hi, my name's Maureen Nunn. I'm the co-member chair for ChemPharma in addition to being a member of the Chemical Consulting Network. So definitely was involved in pulling all this together as far as our joint meeting. The ChemPharma is a networking group geared at the chemical industry. It's primarily geared towards senior members of the chemical industry. We believe that we give very targeted networking, but also once a month we have specific meetings for those in transition in order to help them assimilate back into and decide what they want to do if they've left the chemical industry. In addition, what we'd like to do is offer, since a lot of people are coming here in order to network, I have our events chair, Lynn Williams, here, and she's going to guide you through. If you would like to link in to everybody that's in this room that also would like to link in, she's going to tell you how to do it using your phone.
Hi there. I teach 11 hours worth of LinkedIn content, so this is easy peasy for me. You must have the LinkedIn app on your phone. If you don't have the app on your phone, then you can't participate. If you don't have LinkedIn, you can't participate. So if you do have the LinkedIn app on your phone, you're going to get it out, and down at the bottom, there are two little heads, which means your network. So you're going to tap on that. Now, LinkedIn has just recently rolled out a new feature. So there are potentially two ways of doing this. It's called Find Nearby. At the top in the middle, you might find something called Find Nearby. If you're doing this for the very, very first time ever, you're going to have to enable your phone and your Bluetooth. So you're going to say yes a couple times. If you don't see Find Nearby at the top in the middle, maybe you have a little blue circle down at the bottom right with a plus sign. You're going to tap that and then Find Nearby. This is a live, real-time thing, so you must actually be on this at the same time as everybody else. So what happens is everybody that's doing this at the same time is going to come up on the LinkedIn app, and if you see plus signs, you can just tap the plus signs to do quick invitations to people, and it's not personalized, but yet you know from the people's names and whatnot that you see here and the name tags here, that who was here tonight in this room. So you've seen the whites of their eyes. So I know that I'm going to probably need to repeat that, so let me do this one more time. You're going to go down to the two little heads at the bottom. You're going to tap that. Okay? Now, at the top, you might see Find Nearby. You're going to tap that. You with me? Okay? Then, if you've never done this before, you're going to have to enable your Bluetooth. You're going to say yes a couple times or whatever's logical. And then all of a sudden, you will see people pop up on your phone. If people get off the phone, that means that's done. It's done. So you want to stay on this just for a couple minutes while people have a chance to get caught up. Now, if you are excited about this concept and you don't have the LinkedIn app on your phone, let me tell you instructions on how to get this done. I don't know if you've ever heard of Vista.today. It is a Chester County publication. If you go on Vista.today and you type in my name, Lynn Williams, Lynn with an E, E for education, okay, then you will see all the articles that I've written on a weekly basis since February. And it's one of the earlier articles in February or early March. It'll say, LinkedIn Find Nearby. It gives you step-by-step instructions, and it also gives you step-by-step instructions for many other little tidbits on LinkedIn. So hopefully you'll learn lots about LinkedIn. So Vista.today. And those are also publications on my LinkedIn profile. So you can access them that way. Okay. All right.
All right, we're fortunate to have today as our speaker my friend, Dr. Peter Mlynick. So Peter has a PhD in chemistry from the University of Wisconsin at Madison, an MBA in finance and investment from the University of Wisconsin at Madison as well, and a JD from Rutgers University.
The music in the background here, it seems really fun.
Okay, well, yeah, somebody will look into that. Thank you. So Peter's an attorney with 20 years of experience in addressing legal and patent needs of business clients in the chemical, pharmaceutical, and biotech industries. He currently has his own practice in obtaining patents in the U.S. and worldwide, helping to solve business problems through the strategic use of patents and performing intellectual property due diligence or M&A, as well as other aspects of intellectual property. And before he entered patent practice, Peter worked as a development scientist in the polyurethane industry. I can tell you from personal experience that Peter is an extraordinarily intelligent and gifted chemist, and we're very, very lucky to have him in our field. Also to help us with intellectual property issues. He's a friend of mine, and with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Peter Mlynick.
Oh, thank you very much. I don't know if I can live up to that excellent introduction. And, I wish I would be introducing me like 20 years ago when I was dating. Okay. Well, and I really want to wish not only CCN and Chem Pharma for inviting me, but also to thank each of you, because you took time out of your busy schedule to spend 3 hours with me on this presentation. Okay.
That's all?
Okay, my turn. I'll try not to make any more jokes, I promise. Okay, this is actually not my first time, so I'm glad that I was able to come here. I think, according to my record, I spoke about 4 times here. One of them was on the patent strategies in the BRIC countries. That's the Brazil, Russia, India, and China. This was, I think, in 2005 or so. And then a little later on, when the biggest change in patent law since 1950s came in 2012. It was regarding the American Invents Act, 2012, and then also for consultants. For the consultant, I talked about how to be a consultant. So instead of you being a client, you are actually being a vendor. So you're going to get paid by them. And how to actually work with lawyers. And some of the bits of these I've incorporated into my the current presentation. So if you missed any of those, or if you're here for the first time, then I'm sure I'll try to hit some of the highlights. All right. So I'm going to be talking about essentially the newest part is going to be the laws, regulations, and court holdings. The point of this is is that this is not for people who don't understand patents, who are brand new to the patents. Okay, this is for people. This presentation is for people who understand a little bit about it, a little bit about what patents are, what a patent term is, what it covers, and so forth. So this is more for more of an advanced seminar, and so first I'll talk about the regulations, laws, and then the patent strategy. It's going to be a very short presentation, a short section, and hiring and working with patent attorneys and projecting capitals. Because this is really what it's a business. Patents are essentially a business tool, and the technology is not what's important. It's making of the money. How do you make money? If you don't have patents to make money for you, it doesn't make sense. This is not an academic exercise. Right. So first of all, what I'd like to start with the laws. Okay, so why do we have the laws that we have regarding the patents? First of all, we're talking about the top of the pyramid, which is the U.S. Constitution. In there, there's a short, in the Constitution, which is about 20 pages, there's a short blurb regarding in Section 1, Article 8, Section 8, Subsection 8, that the Congress shall make laws that will protect the rights of inventors and of artists, meaning patents or copyrights, for a limited time. Now, then you're going to have statutes. So statutes, it's and all the laws in the United States, as you might know, are contained in a set of books. There's about 50 books. Everything from military, NASA, taxes, FDA, and so forth. And there are statutes that have to do with patents. It's an Article 35. It's about 100,000 words. Then underneath that, you have regulations, and they're essentially regulations. This is true for whatever kind of federal agency you work with. Regulations are those things that the agencies themselves put forth. Okay, so those are the ones that say, we think that the patent should be like this, or we think that our spending program at NASA should be like this, and they work within the constraints of what the Congress told them, and then they put out a notice to the public. The notice of comment period, which is 30 days or 90 days, depending on the extent. And public comes back and tells them, well, this is a great way of, this is a great regulation, this is a bad regulation, and then they come up with a final notice. And there are, of course, guidebooks and guides, websites, and so forth. So, and finally, what's really for most people who are business people or who are in the scientists and not lawyers, kind of puzzling is the last thing. It's the core decisions. Right? In order to really talk about core decisions, I want to tell you. I'm not going to be doing any more specifics. Okay, I want to tell you how the court system works. In the United States, as you might know, there's two court systems. There's two separate court systems. There's the state court system, and there's a federal court system. The state federal court system takes care of only those things which Congress makes laws about. Congress meaning the House of Representatives and Senate. And then you have the state system. This is an example of the state system. All of you essentially, when you're trying to sue somebody, or if you're arrested, you're going to go to the court under Pennsylvania laws. You're going to go to the Court of Common Pleas. Okay, that's the lowest court, and there's different sections depending on what the matter is. It could be civil, it could be equity, it could be criminal, and then the next level above that is the Superior Court. Superior Court of Common Law. That means that if that is appeal, that you go to appeal. And if you don't like that, then you go to the Supreme Court. Okay. Now this is most states have these three. Some states have only two, like Rhode Island. And the number of courts, the lowest courts, is usually the number of counties. Okay. Now here's the federal court system. You have the same idea. So in this particular case, there's about 94 districts, and so that's about two, on average, two per state. New York has 4, California and Texas have 4, but places like Wyoming or Utah, they have only 1. So it's, and then you know, the Court of Appeal. There's 11 districts, And 11 circuits. There's also a DC circuit and a federal circuit. All right. And then finally, if you don't like that, if you don't like the appeals from the Court of Appeals, you can go ahead and ask the Supreme Court to review the appellate court decisions. Here's how these courts are organized. Now, the only court that I really want to talk about today is the federal court, the federal circuit, right? Essentially, the problem is that the courts of appeals hear cases from about murders. They hear about cases about anything that has to do with federal law. If you have big companies suing each other companies for more than $75,000, and so that is within the purview of the district courts. And so, so in order to make it easier, back in the 80s, the government says, you know what? Nobody understands patents. The lawyers don't. I mean, or the justices don't understand patents, because most of the justices they have undergraduates in philosophy or in English and stuff like that. They're really not necessarily up on the technical side. And so what they said is, screw this. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put everything into the federal court of appeals. And so here's what they did. They essentially put everything into the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. And what I'm showing you over here is that this is my whole talk so far led up to this slide, which shows you how important these courts are. The fact is that what is important for the lawyers is number one, what does the Supreme Court say about laws? The fact is, though, that the Supreme Court says very little about patent cases because they hear maybe 2, 3, or 4 cases per year. What the vast majority of cases that I cite in my work have to come from the U.S. Court of Appeals. So when you're talking to lawyers, okay, what you need to realize is they're looking for the decisions of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. That's the most important thing for them, okay? And we have to. They also think I sometimes look at the district courts, but you know, I very rarely do that.
So Peter, do patent cases always end up in the federal versus the state system?
Patent cases, because it has to do with because it is in the U.S. Constitution. Okay, it always goes into federal court. It doesn't go into the state court. Now, there are times where you have where one company sues another company, and there's a whole bunch of issues. Some of them are state, some of them are federal. And essentially there's 2 ways of I don't know how many ways, but two main ways of getting into federal court. One of the ways is to have an issue that's that the Congress has addressed, like patents, or EPA and so forth. And the second way is if you have if it's over $75,000. If it's over $75,000 or $100,000 these days, then it goes. Then you can go ahead and the parties can go and go into the federal court. So, but for every so 2 things. It is always a federal court as far as patents go, and it always goes up to one single body when it goes up. That's the federal circuit. And if the question?
Yeah, but as a consultant, when we sign a contract with our client, sometimes
Yes.
it's a big pharma, so on a contract you sign with them, there is a paragraph called miscellaneous, and then you arrange all the procedure, what happened if something happened to, some side breached the contract. Most of the contract that I'm sure that most of us do are not even, it's
That's
it's
correct.
a geographical code, so how can?
Yeah, right, what it is that usually when you have a contract, when you're a contractor, what you have to do is you have to make sure that there, in the contract, that there is a choice of law paragraph.
Yes.
Right, you have to decide, you have to make sure, because you, so, it does, because if you don't have that, then you have to get into the argument, well, is it where your client is? Is it where you're located? Is it where the contract was signed? So I always recommend having a choice of law, okay? And it doesn't have to be where you're located or they're located, it could be someplace else, okay?
Thing is that you have to find, so it's because sometimes and let's face it, sometimes as a consultant, when you have a contract, you have to receive what they want, because human interest is to protect right now the contract. So,
Right.
and when you start a contract, most of the time you don't start it with patent. Patent, it's something happened during the relationship. It's a raise. It's something that raised from the work together. So
Right.
how can what paragraph you recommend to put?
Okay, let me answer that. There's two issues you need to be aware of. Number one, when you have the contract, the contract should have in it who owns what IP property. Okay, it should, and obviously the person who hires you, the company who hires you, they want everything. Okay.
Yes.
My view is that yeah, they should have. I mean, you're being hired to do work for them.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't go and screw yourself. If you're developing, what industry are you in? What's your client's industry? Pharma. Okay. So if you develop a new process, a new drug, okay, or a new way of doing something, pilot program, okay, that's fine. That's theirs. But if you develop a program how to maximize their benefit, how to do something that you can use for somebody else, okay, that should be yours. My view is it makes most sense from societal point of view that you should divide up your IP in a way that the parties make the most use out of it, okay. So you should probably put something in the contract. Yes, everything is going to be owned by the company, except for the tools that I use in order to help service you. Okay? It's hard to do that, but you should try to do something like that. That's my view.
Yeah, the thing is that thinking logically, every project you start, of course, a big pharma company gonna they gonna make sure that every piece of wood gonna aim to the target, to the right, to own the technology, and you don't have any rights. But here is my question: so they talking about the current technology they have. As a consultant, as a scientist, most of us help them to develop it, to modify it, and no, I didn't see in my life, no even one contract that say that technology is us, and what all the knowledge and all the cooperation between us and all the IP that's gonna erase from our cooperation gonna belong to us. So this is something I recommend everyone to make sure that all the new development, I think it's fair enough to make sure that, okay, we're going to talk about the new development, the new arising data, the new IP that's going to erase from our relationship.
Right, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, they can, the way that this normally goes is that they give you a contract and you just say, sign it. And,
yeah,
it's like, okay, fine, well, do I want the job or not? But, okay, so the way to handle that, and then some of my clients are in a similar situation, they say, I want to sign this contract, okay? I really do. The problem is that I already have, I already assigned some of this tool. I want to give you guys, I want to give all the tools I possibly can in order to facilitate this. I'm going to be using tools that cannot belong to you because they belong to somebody else. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, Mr. and Mrs. Pharmaceutical Company, what I'd like you to do is just say, I will give you all the IP except what's listed in the appendix. Okay, in the appendix you say, well, you know, I have this program, I have such and such, and essentially they have to they you know. The patent attorneys or the contract attorneys don't care. It's the business that cares. You know, who owns the IP. What the patent attorneys or the attorneys who are putting the contract together, they care that contract is bulletproof. They want to make sure that there is no doubt who owns what. Or that's not just IP, but it could be for everything else. Because you know, if you tell them I already own this, I can't give it to you. Sorry, you know, somebody else owns it. You know, they want to know that. I think that's fair thing for you to do. Yeah, I'm sorry to.
Pretty deep, this is a deep subject.
Yeah, I can talk to you
Talk about it
later
at
on.
the end, yeah.
Sorry. All right. It's a good question. I didn't interrupt it because it is a question for everybody. Now, these are the people, or some of the people who sit on the Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit. Some of them are chemists. You know, one of the this person is the lead person or the Chief Justice. You know, yeah, and so you know, I'm not going to skip that. All right, so there's 4 requirements to obtain a patent. The number 1 requirement is to be useful. Okay, and for chemists, so it could be a chemistry, it could be mechanical stuff, it could be electrical stuff, and so forth. Luckily for us as chemists, or biochemists, or engineers, or scientists who are on this portion, it's a fairly low hurdle. You don't have to really worry about that. It's the people who are on the electrical side who are doing who want to patent new ways of running businesses. That's a problem. All right. So the questions with patentability. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The patentability with respect to usefulness come up with biological technology. Okay. Can you own life? Computer programs, meaning you know, if I have a new business venture, can I patent a business venture? And finance. Can if I want to move money around, and that's a great way of doing this, can I patent this? And here are some of the cases that I actually answered out. One of them is it goes way back in 1853 by a guy named Samuel Morse, the guy who invented Morse code. Okay, he went and he wanted to get a patent on a way of transmitting improvement of transmitting telegraph signals. All right. So he brings it up to them and he said, I have this great idea of improving it, and here's how I'm doing it. And the court said, no, you can't get that patent or that particular claim because it's a too good of an abstract idea. So what's very important is you cannot claim ideas. Okay, there's no way to protect ideas that underneath our laws. Okay, you can it has to be processed. It has to be a compositional matter. It could be an article or anything like that, but not abstract idea. Okay, the next important case is the Chakrabarti. I always butcher that. Chakrabarti. Okay, and so this guy there who was working for Dow, and he came up with a way of cleaning up oil technology. This was when you had a lot of oil spills that were happening, and his employer wanted to go into the business of oil cleanup, and he invented and he came up with a brand new organism, bacteria, that cleaned up that ate the oil. Okay, and people said, no, you can't do that because this is life. You cannot patent life. And And in this particular case, it worked. And the reason it worked is because the reason why you have a patent on this is because it is an article of manufacture. Okay. Now, if you go out and discover a brand new bacteria, okay, you cannot patent that. But if you make it, if you go into a lab and make it brand new, then you can patent it. That's what's happening. So this actually started. This was one of the most important cases, in patent cases, because it started the whole the whole biotechnology.
Foundation for GMO.
Exactly. Yes. Speaking of GMOs, okay, Bowman versus Monsanto. Okay, and I think that a lot of you heard this case is where Monsanto came up with a way with seeds. They sold it to farmers. The farmers went and under license to only to sow their seeds and harvest it and buy seeds again from Monsanto. Well, one guy didn't. He did a little bit something different. He took his seeds. Some of the seeds he went back and sold back to the grain mill and bought it from them. So the whole point was that this was an idea of patent exhaustion. Okay. For example, you can go ahead and buy cartridges, ink cartridges for your inkjet or for your laser printers at home, and you can buy buy them at $100 a pop, or you can go ahead and buy it from China for $20 per pop. And the reason you can do that is because of the idea of patent exhaustion. You can't just go ahead and have the patent going on and on. So in this particular case, the idea of a patent exhaustion did not go. And then finally, it's this Bilski versus Kaplos. And again, Bilski is the name of the inventor. Kaplos is the patent office. And in this particular case, what happened was that this was a case where he came up with a way of hedging, doing investments. So hedging losses from one segment of energy industry by making investments in another segment of that industry. To me, as a business person, this sounds as a finance person, this is I don't see how we can get a patent. But the fact is that the question is not whether it is obvious. The question is whether it is eligible. In this particular, it wasn't. But there was a test that says that you have to have either a machine or a transformation test that will tell you whether or not something is patentable.
So that's saying a work process is not patentable.
Right. Now, again, this is not for anything that for most people in this room. But what it means is that you have to have a special type of machine, okay, that does something that can go ahead and hedging losses, okay. So it can't be just a PC. It has to be a specialized machine, or somehow it has to transform something, okay. And so when you know this and you go talk to your patent attorney, the patent attorney is very well versed in Bilski and subsequent ones that I'm not going to talk about. Alice is another case. So let me go on to this.
Is this software?
The software, right? Software. Now it's a piece of software, but it cannot be just a software. It cannot be a software. Under U.S. laws are protected by copyrights. Now, for example, in Brazil, they tend to think about software as patentable subject matter. In the United States, no. So it has to be a special machine that runs that software.
Okay.
I personally don't know too much about it because the one-on-one issues are not I've never had a one-on-one rejection. It's always 102, 103, 112. Okay. So the next thing, besides being useful, which is what I talked about, it has to be well described. Okay. So you have to go ahead and not you, but the attorney, okay? So the attorney, you can go ahead and, I came up with, I went with some inventors to lunch, in the back of a napkin, he drew out the formulas and, he sketch diagram and all that, and then I had to come up with 100 pages of stuff that I have to come up with. So you have to make sure that it is well described. So do not let your lawyer just give you 20 pages or 30 pages of stuff. That's not sufficient. Everything has to be done right, because you should not be failing to get a patent because the lawyer didn't put enough information into the patent. I mean, there are reasons not to get patent, like novelty or obviousness, but you really need to be on top of these guys, because they're going to go, guys and gals, because they're going to go and do the job as fast as possible, because time is money. Okay, they're not going to, and what you need to do is you need to make sure that everything is in there. It's all the terms. Okay, take your if it's a PDF or a word processing program, make sure that every single word in the claims is explained someplace in the description. Okay, because because it is okay. The alphabet is described invention in order to get it right. You have to have the description, you have to have the enablement, the best mode. Those are three different things that how the lawyers have to write it. And finally, the best mode is actually something that is only unique to the United States. It's not anywhere else in the world. Now, under the AIA, the best mode, according to law, has to be in there. But if you don't put it in there, it's not fatal. So it's one of these things that the American the Congress wanted to be more like anywhere else, but they still wanted to have this in there. So your attorney must put in your best mode. Okay? So make sure you tell the attorney to your best mode. You cannot hide it from the public. That's the whole idea. Okay. Now, another one is new, meaning novelty. Okay. And this is very straightforward. There's nothing extraordinary about this. If it's not new, it's not patentable. Okay. If someone else has a patent on it, then it's not patentable. Okay. Now, the American Invents Act in 2012 rewrote that totally. It used to be that you can do this. You can do it. You have a 12-month window in which to file your patent. You don't have that anywhere else outside of, or very few places outside of the United States. But here are two cases, and these are several cases for 102 for 102 sections. And one of them was Ebert, and when Ebert, the inventor, invented a steel corset spring that he gave to his girlfriend, and she wore it for 11 years, and then he filed a patent. And nobody, and she was going outside with it, but nobody could see it, right? So the question is that public use? And the court at that time said, well, it is public use. Nobody saw it, but you can go ahead and so if it's on public and you're using it, yes, it is not. It is patentable. Okay. On the other hand, what happened with one of the inventors of a pavement formulation? They came out with a way of making new pavements, and the only way to really test it was not in a lab, but it was actually to let cars or let's say horse buggies run across it. In this case, the Supreme Court had just the opposite. You can go ahead, and it's not public use because it's simply experimental use. Okay, and the last requirement that you need to do is it cannot be obvious. Okay, and this is the most important one, or the fourth, because I spend the vast majority of my time, I think 60 to 80% of my time, figuring out the obviousness. okay? Because this is where patents are made or not made. And luckily, that has not really changed in 2012 under the AIA. And I want to spend some time on this. And this is KSR was a seminal case. This is one of the most important cases that I'm going to talk about today. The KSR. I'm not sure what KSR stands for. It's the name of the company, but everybody refers to this. And one of them, there are 7 different tests to make sure that something is obvious. And this is only for the U.S. The Japanese and the Chinese and the Europeans have their own way of doing this. They don't have offices of the independent step. I like the independent step a lot much better than the American system, but this is the way they say it. Okay, so if you combine prior elements according to a known method to yield predictable results, then it is obvious. Okay, so if you take one piece of an article and combine with another piece of article, and you make a third piece, this is obvious. You could not get a patent on this. Right? So that's 1 out of the 7. The second one is the simple substitution of one known element for another for something else, and gives the predictable results. That's also that's also obvious. So if you have this product, these are not from cases. I'm just making up. I'm making this up. There will be something for cases up, but I'm trying to illustrate how it is. Okay. So if you go ahead and take out of this red hexagon, you have a red hexagon with a yellow triangle, and go ahead and substitute it in there, and guess what? You can get rid of the yellow triangle for a green triangle. This is obvious. So you're not going to be able to. You are not going to be able to patent this. Third one, use of known techniques to improve similar devices. Okay. And this one is important. Okay, so this is prior art. Let's suppose a long time ago you had this pentagon, and it had sharp corners. And so what you wanted to do is somebody came along and said, well, those sharp corners are not what our customers want, or they're hurting kids or whatever, and they put these rubber balls on them or something like that. Okay, some caps. Okay, so they say, well, I'm not selling. I'm not selling red pentagons. I'm selling diamonds, yellow diamonds. Can I get a patent on that? And the answer is no. You can't do that. Okay, the answer is obvious. Okay, and the question, of course, is, what if it's not really a diamond? What if it's more like a star? Okay. And you get into this, and so there's a way of really going. This is so unlike the 112. Okay, unlike the 102. Okay, 103. This particular 103 it's a matter of arguing back and forth correctly. And what you need to do is you need to be able to give the patent attorney saying you have when you're submitting the application at the very beginning. Here are the differences, and here's why it's better. Okay. So the fourth one is very similar to the last one. Oops. Okay. In this case, it's actually the flipped around. Okay. You see that there's a hexagon, there's a pentagon, and they have stars with these end caps. Okay. You say, well, I'm selling these pentagons. I'm going to go and put the end caps the caps on it. Okay. Very similar idea that before. For whatever reason, the Supreme Court thinks that's different. Okay. Now, here's an actual case. So Pfizer, okay, they came up with this heart medicine, okay, and amlodipine. Okay. Now, I wasn't involved in this case. And the prior art came up with an additional salt. And malate was, and in the patent they said we have malate and we have a whole bunch of other salts. The problem was that when they went into production, You know, it worked beautifully in the pilot program, but when in the production they found out that it's sticking to their machinery. So what do you do? Well, what do you do? You're in Inferno. Do you know what you would do?
Actually, she's the doctor, I'm the business.
Oh, okay. Well, what would you do if it's sticking? Well, what they did was basically use a different salt.
If they can, if it doesn't stick, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You want to make sure that you use a different salt. Okay. And the Supreme Court says, okay, so they came up with distillate salt. The court says, well, no, that's obvious because it's okay. People know that you can that that's what you said. You know, you just want you want a different salt, and so there's only two dozen different salts. Or I don't know how many salts. You can figure out. You can try different ones. Okay, until it works. So so it's okay. Let me go on.
So Peter,
Yes.
in that latter case, what if the distillate salt did something beyond solving the sticking problem? Let's say it changed the pharmacokinetics
Right.
dramatically so that now the therapeutic index was way better. Then what?
Good case. Good question. And the reason I didn't give you the answer because I'm flying through these. I apologize. The fact is that if you read this, obviously try choosing from a finite number of identified predictable solutions, right? Which is what we said doesn't stick, with a reasonable expectation of success. So in this case, if I see pharmacokinetics being better, I'd say, hey, it was not expected. I was expecting it not to stick, but lo and behold, this is an unexpected result.
Right.
So this was it was not reasonable for me to expect better PK.
Or even if you go back to the stickiness case, let's say you understand the reason for being sticky. Let's say
Right.
you understand that there is some kind of residual on the molecule that adheres to metal on the equipment.
Right.
And you try a bunch of chemistries without this, residual that's supposed to stick, and something happens and a different molecule with the same residual doesn't stick. That's not obvious either. See what I mean?
Right, but I think that the question is, in this particular case, the Supreme Court said that it would be obvious because there must be something in the literature that says, yeah, you try different salts and until one doesn't stick. And the question is, do you know that it's distillate salt? I'm not sure if that was the fact, but yes, essentially, the whole point is obviously try, and the reason to get away from obviously try is one of the ways is a reasonable expectation.
Right.
So a lot of patent attorneys say, and I've been taught that is don't put down unexpected results. Don't say, hey, this was unexpected, because what's going to happen is that you are going to get somebody's going to pull up a reference. The examiner's going to pull up a reference and say, you say it's unexpected, but I say here's a reference that says that it does exactly what you're saying. So, but what I've done is what I do now is I put on a whole bunch of unexpected results, and these unexpected results don't have to be huge. They don't have to be a huge problem. They have to be small. They have to be statistically significant. Or I like to have those things, but they have to be real, and there have to be a number of them. And I basically say, hey, this is unexpected, that's unexpected, that's unexpected, that's unexpected. So I have some of my patents. They have like 20 different unexpected things, and yeah, go ahead, Mr. Examiner, try it, and I'll tell him which one is.
So Peter, if I can chime in on this, I see this kind of thing all the time as a consultant. The obvious the argument would be that there are about 40 salts of drugs that have malate hydrochloride salts.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are.
There's about 40.
Are you familiar with this?
Pardon me?
Are you
Not
familiar
this
with this?
particular
Oh, okay. Yeah.
compound. There's about 40 salts
That sounds about, that's
approved by the FDA.
Right.
So the side that's trying to invalidate the patent would say there's a finite number, let's say 40 solves that you tried, so you had good luck with one of them, it's obvious it should be negated. The other side would say, no, it doesn't stick to the machinery anymore, it's great. I would say you got a 50-50 chance.
I mean, this, you're absolutely right. You know, it really is a hit or miss with some of these examiners. That's why these are very difficult.
I'm actually even talking about the process beyond that litigation, which.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, it's the same thing when you're talking about litigation or prosecution. Yeah, obviously when you.
My impression is if you beat on the patent examiner long enough, you write enough nasty letters, eventually, if there's anything to it, you get a patent. With the litigation, you know, now you're facing a judge.
Right, because now it's not just a it's not a case that's $30,000. Now it's $500,000 or $1 million. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, there's composition of matter, there's process patents,
Right.
and then there's application patents. If you take something and you find a new application for it also, that's a way to get around
Right.
some of these
Yes.
non-obvious.
Yeah, that's what you do. Essentially, when you go and patent a new drug, for example, you say, okay, this is going to be the new chemical entity. Okay, that's a strongman. That's what you want.
That's the strongest
That's absolutely the strongest. Then you do composition of matter. That's also very good. Then sometimes method of treatment. A method of treatment is not necessarily very, especially in Europe, and it doesn't. Oh,
Yeah.
I can. It's and then method of process of making it. So you have at least
Right.
4 different ways of doing this.
Sorry, we're slowing you down.
Yeah. Okay, F. Okay, known work in one field may find variations for use in the same field or a different field based on a design incentive or other market forces. Okay, so if you have, if you are in the business of making red rectangles, okay, and you can the way that you other people are doing it is you put these little caps on them. What you can do is like, hey, I can just file them down. Okay, nobody would think of the hey, you didn't think about filing them down. You thought about having them in putting little caps on it.
Yeah, I did.
So, well, because he knew about it from what he did from other places. So that's the thing that. If you think really outside of the box, this would be again. The question is how far outside of the box is it? Is that really that? Is that not? Is that obvious or not? It's a different.
Because Apple actually got a patent on that exact thing, the rounded corners.
Okay,
But
let me tell you. That one that's a very that was actually a design patent. Yeah, and what's nice about design patents is because nobody really cared about design patents. Who cares about design patents? Because design patents, as opposed to utility patents, which is everything I'm talking about, is essentially you take a picture of something, you take a picture of a car, you file it in, and it's very, very narrow. It's like it has to be almost exact, okay, and nobody took this seriously because it's so easy. Hey, you just make those corners bigger or smaller or whatever. But what happened in that particular case, which was a $250 or $280 million judgment, it was exactly. And nobody thought about design patents. Nobody took them seriously. Then, holy cow, everybody's like, yeah, the phones are hanging on the hooks. We made a design patent because it's cheap. And the beautiful thing about design patents, you do not have to you don't have to maintain them.
Oh my God, that's huge money. Huge money.
Yeah.
The phrase there, ordinary skill in the art. What does
Do I have
that
that
mean?
here?
Yeah,
At the end.
at the end.
Oh, I think, oops. Ordinary skill in the art. Yeah, that's now I'm okay. That's a different case. There was a deer case. What it means is how do you who's the patent is written to somebody, okay, I would not be able to, or the majority of people in here would not be able to read stuff about semiconductor patents, right? So who is it? Who is this addressed to? And so it's usually addressed to somebody who's a peer of a person who developed this. Okay, so it's usually it could be if it's chemical stuff, it could be either a MS or a PhD. Okay, if it would be electrical stuff, where most of the people are BSWE. If it's a mechanical, or if it's if it's a kid's toy, or something like that, it'd be just a person with a high school diploma. Yeah, that's a good topic. It's a good question. Finally, this is the last one. Okay, the teaching of suggestion motivation. Okay, so this is what they call the TMS, teaching suggestion motivation, of prior art with lead one of ordinary schoolyard to modify prior art references, either by itself to arrive at the great invention. So you can go ahead and have one of the things that one reference says, well, you can have these tabs, or in order to, and then somebody else says, well, you have rounded corners, and so you come up with this. You combine them in a very straightforward manner. That would not be a problem. So, okay, that's it. So okay, so now that's I guess that's my first quarter.
Yeah, we have about.
Okay. Okay, plan strategy. Okay. So this is very simple. The patent strategy follows business strategy. What I want from you, or what your attorney wants from you, when you approach her or him, they want to make sure the invention is finished, and then they also have to want to make sure that everything else is finished. They want to know. Now, it's going to be much easier for you as well as for them to make sure that they understand. You understand your marketing. How are you going to hire people to produce this? Are you going to produce it in the United States or in China? Are you going to be? What's your ultimate design going to be? Okay, you may be finished with the invention, but what you're going to be putting on a shelf may be something a little bit different. Okay, do you have an idea what the ultimate design is going to be? If you have a startup, do you have an exit strategy? Do you want to go and sell it to a big pharma? If so, that better be filed internationally. You better go and file it in China and Japan and Korea and half a dozen countries. They're not going to sell. They're not really interested in something that's going to be in the United States. Okay. Product life cycle, all this stuff. So please, when you go if you want to lower your cost, if you want to increase the effectiveness of talking with the patent attorneys, have all of this stuff finished. It's very important because I view it. I don't know. I'm for my business. I look at it at patents not as a legal tool, not as a scientific tool, but as a business tool. You really need to go and talk business to them. Take off your scientific hat, put on your business hat.
Talking about that, Peter, how long are patents now in which classification? Pharmaceutical patents versus chemical patents? 12, 20 years, 17 years?
It used to be 17 years from the day of so if you take a look at when it was published, it had 17 years. Nowadays, it's 20 years worldwide. For now in the United States,
Everything's 20 years
it's
now?
20 years from the date of filing. Okay. Now, if you have a divisional, then okay. And the other change, this was in '96 or around 2000, I think. They basically said, yeah, you can't have any more submarine patents. So submarine patents. There was a guy named Lemelson, okay, who was a very, depending on what side of the fence you sit, but he was a very interesting individual. He was a brilliant person, and what he did was he made inventions all over everything, including in circuits, defense, and all that. And then he kept on prosecuting, delaying the prosecution, and until one day, and in the meantime, the industry was already booming, and then he came 20 years, 15 years later, he said, "Hey, I have a patent on that." Now you have $1 billion industry out there, and he sued them because, hey, you know, I have a patent or integrated circuit. So no more of that. The way that you do that is now you're published. So after 18 months after submitting, it's automatically published. And you can do something against that. But normally it's published. All right. So that's the end of the second quarter. All right, my talk. Working with lawyers. First of all, where are lawyers from? Well, there's only two places where you find lawyers. It's law firms and companies, okay, the private practice or being in-house. And what you're interested really in is the law firms. You're not interested in what's going on in the companies. So when you hire a person, hopefully a sole practitioner, you can be hiring somebody from a big law firm who's general practice. They do everything, have hundreds of lawyers. Or you can hire somebody from a boutique, the specialty company. You have a sole employee, you have a dozen or 2 dozen employees that specialize only in one kind of law. It could be like tax law, or it could be personal injury or something, or in this particular case, intellectual property. How are law firms organized? Well, for better or for worse, it's very, very hierarchical. Okay, so the people, in most companies, people move around. Okay, so you can be director, you can be promoted. It's very nebulous, but the fact is that you have partners, you have other lawyers, and you have support staff, and and you have the owners. The owners of the must be lawyers. You have other lawyers, and non-equity partners of counsel associates. Essentially, it's like if you're in academia. These people are like the ones who have tenure. These are the associate professors and assistant professors. And you have a support staff. Secretaries, paralegals, office managers, IT, finance, marketing. Okay. Now, what's important to realize is that not only is it organized vertically, but also not only horizontally, but also vertically. You can have somebody who is in a drug, labor, health, commercial, and so forth. So what's important is, what I would say is that if you have a tax question, you want to hire somebody to do tax for you, okay, you would hire somebody in here who is preferably a partner or somebody pretty high level up, okay, and you talk to that person, okay. Now, it's possible you don't know that person. You can go ahead and hire somebody else, and what's going to happen is that you will be able to work with the billing partner, and they're gonna figure out who in their company they need to organize. He or she's gonna go ahead and put together a team. Okay, the business model for a boutique offering. Okay, so as I said, you always have at least 3 attorneys. You have a billing, 2 or 3 attorneys. You have a billing attorney. That's a person who you talk with. That's a person who schmoozes you, takes you out to dinners and drinks. And that's the person who's going to send you the bills. Then you have the supervising attorney. That's the person who actually knows what's going on. And then you have the working attorney and the working steps who are down here to figure out how to actually do the work. Okay. Right. So now this is the last quarter. How much is it to get a patent? So This is, well, if you're gonna go and figure out how much a pad is gonna cost, a pad costs about as much as a car. Okay. Okay. So, what kind of car? You know, you have a used BF truck, or it's gonna be something a fancy automobile, or it's gonna be a new pickup truck. I don't know. Do you want? It's essentially is, do you want to have a pad? Maybe you want to get a truck, or that's going to distribute widgets. It's about it's about cost about the same. So now, why does it cost so much? Because after all, it's just a piece of paper. It's 20, 30, as I said, 80 pages. And you have to, for that, you have to understand the process of making a pad. You come up with an invention. Okay, you go with conception, you take it to a lab, you work on it, you reduce your practice, you go ahead and give it to a patent attorney, one of the receiving hairline, and the patent attorney goes and drafts a patent application. Then the attorney, after everything is good, sends it to the U.S. Patent Office, and then you get a patent. Well, which will be that easy. And what actually happens is that the patent office says, screw you, you're not going to get a patent. You have all these 103 rejections, or 102, or whatever. So then you go, then the patent attorney goes back and forth with the patent office. So that's called prosecution. Okay. So, and after that, you finally get a patent, and you finally get your, get passed up to the people who are making money and who are taking credit for this. And that's licensing. Now, what's happening here is that you have about 1/3 is spent right here, 1/3 is spent at the prosecution level, and 1/3 is spent to keeping up with the patent afterwards. So, why does it cost so much? You obviously want to make sure that you're going to get a good patent, but you really want to go ahead and knock down the cost. Unfortunately, I took this. You've seen this before, right? So it's $410,000. Nowadays, 5, 6 to maybe 12. But it's $110,000. You should be able to get a draft or a patent application under 10 grand. I think I usually say 7 average, but it could be more. Then you file it, which is again you have a filing fee, examination fee. And that really depends. If you file it in the United States, it's I usually it's about $1,000. If you file it internationally, $3,000. That really depends. And then a third of the cost is prosecution, and the prosecution cost is about 2 to 4 years. And so you have to realize that you're going to be having to pay on and on during the intervening years. After you submit before it is accepted, rate about $3,000 to $8,000. And then the issues, you have to pay for the issue fee, and then you have to pay for the maintenance. So that's your breakup. The question is, how can we get patent cheaper? Well, there's only 2 places that you can go ahead and deal with this. That is to pay less to the patent office, pay less to the patent lawyer. The patent office, there really is not much you can do with that. You can, the issue fee is what it is, the filing fee is what it is, the maintenance fee is what it is. You can, for example, you can have fewer, the fewer claims you have, the better it is. If you have over 20 claims, you have to pay per claim. It's like $40 for a claim. If you go into Europe, it's $200 per claim, 15. But yeah, try to keep the number of claims a little lower, and obviously you have to beat up on the lawyer. That's yeah. But there's no economies of scale. It is what it is. If I spend 20 hours on it, I charge you for 20 hours. You know, if you give me 10 patents, yeah, I can go ahead and copy things from one, and then I can give you a deal, but it is what it is. So again, as I said, and as I indicated previously, have all the necessary information for lawyer ready, business plan, marketing, okay, that's it. That's the end of my presentation.
Good, we have any additional questions for Peter?
You have lawyers that specialize in getting patents, and you probably have lawyers that specialize in how to get around it from somebody else.
Right. Okay. Now that's a very important point. I didn't touch on this case. One of my other presentations that did touch on that. You have two different type of lawyers. You have people who are scientists or engineers gone to the dark side. Okay? Those are called patent attorneys. Then you have litigators. Those are the ones who go into figure out whether to file a lawsuit against the opponent. Okay? It's very important. Okay? The majority of the attorneys are going to say, oh yeah, I can do both. You really want this is I mean I can file it. I can file it for you. No big, Am I good at it? Not really. I'm good at doing what I do, which is writing the patent. And essentially, I've seen people who are very good at doing both, but I would have very high reservations about having the same person when you have a patent attorney say, I do both. Yeah, they do, but they really and Judge Posner of the 7th District, I showed really, what he basically, his view is, there is, you can teach a litigator, it could be a litigator who does divorces or actually on the federal side, you can teach a litigator enough about patent law in a finite amount of time to do a decent job doing litigating a patent case. It would take infinite amount of time to teach a patent lawyer enough about litigation for that person to do a good job. So you really want to, and it's I mean, it's in a way it's like being a scientist and engineers. They have different mentalities. It's much more even there's a bigger gap between the litigating attorneys and the prosecuting attorneys, and being prosecuting attorneys being the patent attorneys.
My question was, how is that adjudicated when we put that in front of a judge who doesn't know squat behind it? I mean, if you have someone who's basically, you have a patent, someone wants to go in there and try to get around that.
Yes.
That's a specialty guy, okay? That's going to be taken in some cases, it's going to be, it comes up against to a court.
Okay, you have to, when you're being, when somebody accuses you of your company infringing a patent, okay, there's two ways, generally, very broadly speaking, there's two ways of getting around it. One way is saying, I do not infringe, I'm outside of the scope of your patent, or I may or may not be this outside within the patent. But your patent is no good. Okay, your patent is no good because I found a reference on 102 reference. The best way of doing this is getting it on 102 reference. Or you can go ahead and say, you know what? You have 5 people listed here, but you should have 6. What you did is you committed a fraud. You screwed over one of the inventors. You committed a fraud on the patent office, and that patent is not enforceable. That's a wonderful way of doing it. It's like a nuclear bomb essentially. If you commit a fraud, that's a winner because you don't have to go through every single claim.
I have a question.
Okay,
Do you have one case that excited you the most, you're most pleased with, that you did, that you can say a brief comments about? That you
well, I'm
personally-
not doing any, I mean, I'm doing essentially, I do anything that has to do with chemicals. Okay, I do, I've been doing mergers and acquisitions, do due diligence and so forth. But right now, what I do is essentially business consulting. Consulting, hey, how are you going to do? How are you going to go ahead and get expanded? How are you going to go ahead? How is your patent is a patent going to help you or not? Okay? And I look at it from a business point of view. You know, I use my MBA, and my clients like the fact that I have an MBA because they say, yeah, you're not just an iPad, you understand the business side. Okay? And then the bread and butter is prosecution, getting patents. So my patent is chemical, pharma. I don't have any biotech, but I have also biotech, medical devices, for those. Yes. Oh.
Yeah, I have a general question. How do you define an inventor?
How do you define an inventor? Okay, that's an excellent question. Because, as you know, when you go and if you publish a paper with something to JACS or JOC or wherever, okay, the people who are going to be listed on the paper are going to be, okay, it's going to be the PI, it's going to be probably the grad student, the postdoc. You know, you put 2 or 3 grad students, or you put a 4th grad student on there. You know, well, you know, it's kind of a. You also put in the summer or the undergrads. There are different ways of doing it. Okay, the Russians, they like to put in the chairman of the department. Okay. Here is how patents are different. It is essential that you get the inventor's right. It is essential you have that the patent attorney goes and determines the inventor right. And there are very strict rules on that. They've been doing this for 50 years, since 1950s, where it's very strictly defined. Okay, and when you say, well, and I don't want, you know, it has to be basically the proof. And it's unfortunate that people who are, the inventors who are working day in, day out in the laboratories, they say, oh, I'm not an inventor, it sucks, or yeah, I'm an inventor. And so when I tell the client, the medium-sized clients, it's like, look, I'm going to interview everybody who's been working on this, okay, the contributor, like kind of contributor, and I will determine who is going to be on the patent or not. Okay, don't worry about it. You know, I tell the client, you don't worry about unless the attorney who knows something anyway. If I'm working with a medium-sized client who are reporting to the director of research, I tell them, look, I'll be the bad guy. You tell me everybody, and I'll make a solution. It is essential that those things that the inventorship is done correctly, and the reason is because if you don't have it correctly, it could be construed that you're committing a fraud on a patent office, and it's essential as the patent is working. And the only thing I can tell the research advisor or the PI or the person who hires me, it's like, I tell you what, here are the 5 people. You put them in the order you want. It doesn't matter, you know, if it's the PI first or the undergrad or whoever. But it is essentially that they get them correctly. And you don't know at the beginning because you're going to be doing prosecution. As we discussed earlier, you have 4 different things in there. You have the new chemical entity. You have it splits up. You know, so you're not going to be depending on how it splits up. You're going to have different people who end up on the patent than you started off with, and you have to it's a human interaction kind of a thing. You have to let the patent attorney must tell the inventor, you know, I think that you might be, we have to see, we can revisit it later. Doesn't mean that your contribution is not, it's, sometimes it's like, the person that did, 90% of the work, sorry, you just don't qualify to be the inventor.
Do the same names have to be on the provisional? If you file a provisional.
No, it has to be, okay, the rule is that every single person who's listed as an inventor must make a contribution to the inventor's contribution to at least one claim. Okay, so if you have, you can have, so if you have, for example, the provisional application, the first application, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the new chemical entity, the mixture, the final compound, the method of making, and so forth. And the fact is that if I get only for the product, the person who invented this stuff, that person is not. It's heartbreaking, but you have to, that's why I'm a bad guy. I'm a lawyer. Don't be a lawyer,
You can define sponsor as a contribution. You can define someone that.
The sponsor is not, no, it has to be.
But you say contribution.
Well, I say, when I say contribution, I mean somebody who's worked on it. Okay, so for example, somebody who's been working on it, running an NMR, okay? Well, that person has no idea. If that person does an NMR, or an X-ray crystal structure or whatever, and then it gives it to that person. I mean, that person contributed to it, but that person is not an inventor.
So by law, if you have technology, and you develop technology, that's what I can make, and someone sponsoring it, it cannot be by the law and invent.
Correct. You have to get, now, the fact is that that person may be the owner of the patent. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a professor working for a company, or if in your case you're a contractor, right? Okay. If you're a contractor, you're gonna be the inventor, but you're not gonna be the owner of the patent. You give it to your client. You assign it to your client. And over the past 20, 30 years, they've been getting more and more away from the individual, from the inventors into the hands of the owner. They can be assignees or they can be owners. A lot of times it's like, when you start working, they make you sign, oh, I will go ahead and sign anything that you want me to in order to turn over patents rights. And they fire you, and you say, these guys are screwing me over, screw them, I'm not going to, I totally refuse to do anything before that. Well, in the old days, they had to sue you in order for you to sign it. Nowadays, it's like, just tell me, do you want to sign or not? It doesn't make any difference to me. I just check a different, on the form that I turn in, I just check a different box. I don't care if you don't want to.
But most companies put these, they solve the problem. I can tell you, they write a paragraph that they can take a power of authority in the case that
Yeah. And the reason.
And you sign it and you don't even understand what it is.
Right. And then the reason is that the reason is.
You scan before you sign.
I mean,
No, the reason that they have you sign it, the fact is if they don't need it, I mean, all I have to do is just say, this person is employed by this company. I can prove it. I can call HR, say, give me their starting and date and finishing date, okay, or the termination of the dissociation date, okay, and I can prove that. I'm just putting in my file if anybody challenges it, but all I have to do is just check a different check mark. So saying I'm not going to sign it, it really doesn't matter. Now for contractors, it's going to be a little different, but for employees, okay.
So one thing I wanted to comment on, Peter, I found it very interesting, your slide about don't go to see a patent attorney unless you've got a lot of aspects of your business model figured out. I mean, HR, I don't know what you had, supply chain, manufacturing, all this other
Right,
stuff.
right, right.
And okay, so I'll
This is,
admit to
this
it.
is usually for this is usually for the startup companies. This is
Right.
usually for the people who are mom and pop shop.
Right.
Okay, it's not for big companies.
Yeah, and
The
I'm
big
all-
companies,
Larger companies do mainly commercial development, assessment of.
they already do that.
Yeah, no,
They already do
no,
that there, and they
So
say,
and I'll,
they
I'll
say,
admit, like, for example, all my patents are with DuPont and Roman Haas, so for
Right.
Pete's sake, they've got all that figured out.
yeah, they have all that figured
They have
out.
all
I
that
mean,
figured
they-
out.
But you're not gonna talk to me. It's gonna be somebody from
Exactly.
from their IP.
Exactly.
They say, Peter, here's a disclosure. Go.
No,
I
I know, I
say,
understand that. Okay, it doesn't matter whether it's
It
Johnson
does.
and Johnson
Right, right,
or
anybody.
or John Deere or whoever, they'll have all
Right.
that figured out. But, you know, what I was thinking about for a startup company, you know, in your slide, I do get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I know how a patent attorney like yourself or somebody else, one of your competitors might want that. But for Pete's sake, I mean, the person who's just starting out, they might have some aspects of that stuff figured out, but you can't possibly
No, I can't.
expect them to have
Listen.
everything of that figured out. HR, for Pete's sake? Really?
Listen, the more you have figured out,
Oh, I
the
understand.
better it is. I mean, the whole point of this is, you want to get a good patent, and you want to pay as least as possible for my services.
Right.
And I totally understand that. In order for me to make it, I can focus the patent any way you want to. And so I would say the more information you get from me, the happier I am, the better, the easier it is for me. So the same thing is the same thing. Like if I go, you know, and I have a sliding scale. A lot of my clients like to have fixed fee. How much is it to draw the patent application? I say, you know, I have five different quotes, depending on how much information you provide. If you give me something on the back of a napkin, that's the highest cost because I have to figure everything else. I have to figure out everything about it. If you give me something that's ready to be published, an article to be published, that's the cheapest one.
I
How much
understand
work
that.
do you want to do?
But what I was kind of wondering about is, given what I know about patents, I mean, as long as it satisfies those requirements that you had on the four things, novelty, non-obviousness, I don't know what it was, the other things.
Right, description and
Description.
patentability.
Patentability.
Well, the usefulness, right?
Whatever, yeah, all
Right.
those four
Eligibility,
things.
patent eligibility. they call it.
As long as it satisfies those things.
You're
I mean,
looking at it from a technical point of view.
Right.
You're looking at it as a scientist. You're looking at it as a lawyer. You can't do that. The reason is it's not a patent. It's not a. It's not a. You cannot look at a patent when you're a small startup. You cannot look at it as a technical tool. You cannot look at it as a legal tool. You have to look at it as a business tool.
Well,
does it make sense for you to do that?
Well, what I'm asking you is, how would you nuance or change things as long as you have satisfied those things? And let's say on my side, I had, in some cases, many
Right.
things to figure out to execute my business, or very little to figure out to
Right.
execute my business.
Right.
As long as it satisfies those things, what would you change about?
What I would change is, what I was saying is, I don't know what the product life cycle is.
You don't
That's
know what?
usually the product life cycle. How's it going to be? How long do I want this compound, this composition of this thing to be around before I come up with a new invention? Okay. Okay. I said, well, okay, fine. So I don't know that. So I have to broaden up the claim. I have to. It's not going to be 60 pages. It's going to be 120 pages.
I can certainly see a number of countries, for example.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Now, luckily, for the number of countries, that's a different problem, and I can solve that problem.
Mhm.
The reason is that you tell me, I think that this is going to be important, so I say, fine. In that case, you should really file internationally. The cost between filing internationally in the U.S., the way that I look at it, the drafting cost is the same. It doesn't make any difference if I'm internationally. I think the margins are different,
Mhm.
A4 paper and stuff like that. It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
10 minutes worth of work, half an hour. But the drafting is the same. What is different is that when you submit it, instead of paying $1,000 or $1,500 or $800 for the patent application, you're paying $3,000, $3,500 for the application for PCT. And then you wait for 30 months. So you have 2.5 years to get your funding together. You have 2.5 years to go out and beat on people's doors to give you money, or to license it out. So that way, the licensee, the big company who wants to go ahead and sell it, they pick up my tab instead of you, because the vast majority of small individuals or small companies, they are able to come up with $10, $20, $30,000. They can't go and for 12 12 countries. That's 12 cars.
Yeah.
You can't expect people to come up with $500,000.
Yeah.
So you have to license it. And so I say, okay, I file it today. You got 30 months. I'm gonna call you. At 12 months, I'm gonna call you. At 20 months, 21 months, and so forth until say, hey, it's time for us to figure out where you're gonna file it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Speaking of 30 months, so are there situations where it's strategic to push that envelope to take the full 30 months to get it filed versus moving it through as fast as possible?
That's a business decision, and that's exactly what you have to come up with. There are things that the patent attorneys say, you have to do the ABC. There's other things they say, well, that's why I say I'm not only a patent attorney, but I'm a business advisor. I can say, look, where are you going to be filing it, and you have to, and what a lot of the clients want is really cash flow matching. Okay, so you're going to go and get you're going to get funding from VC. You're going to get funding from somebody else. I'm going to be able to tell you how much it's going to be up front. And so here's what you should expect my bill is going to be in 2012. I mean in 2022, 2023, 2024. Okay, here's what it's going to be. I give them every year for the next 20 years how much my bill is going to be.
But you must build a strategy here, because let's say you start with a proof of concept of one thing. So sometimes you can build your strategy in the meaning of how you're gonna go for patent based on the first proof of concept you have, or the first idea, what potential you have. So it depends how much money you have now, where you want to put it now, and do the first step. Then, based on some results, you can build your patent strategy. But I have a different question. How you guys deal with those live organisms like bacteria and how did the law treat those inventions based on Mother Nature, with like any organism you think you find?
Yeah, so
because philosophy, you cannot claim something. I think that was one of my logical conclusion on one of your.
Geometry?
Yeah, so that you cannot claim something about.
You cannot claim something that's living.
Yes.
You can, but if you go in the laboratory and create it, you can't claim it.
So what you need to be done to patent it generally? What modification you have to put, or what kind of description you have to put on a patent make?
Well, what happens in all these cases is you go ahead and put a gene sequence, for example,
Yeah.
or you can, if it's a biological sample, what you do, there are depositories. You send a depository, you send the sample to a depository, and you say it's I'm claiming this organism or this gene or this part of an organism has been deposited in depository, whatever, father looks like me. So it's I don't I've done it a long time ago. I don't really do that much.
Okay, so,
I'm
There's
sorry
no
I
further-
have to stay here so long.
so, thanks very much, Peter.
Very good.
There we go. Thank you very much for inviting